Alright, so I personally wasn't expecting to make this video, but just from like the player counts of ASCD as the recording of this video, you guys can see why I'm making this video. This game currently has 45k players as the recording of this video. So whenever you guys are watching it, they might be at 50k, 60k, 30k, who knows. But pretty much they have 45k players at the moment. Now, 45k players is a lot, but compared to like the past week where they pretty much had 120k, I don't have like actual images, but I remember the game having 120k players just on all the time pretty much. But yeah, I mean, this game, some people in the Discord say this game is dying, this game has fallen off, blah blah blah. And you know what, I agree with some of the things that people are saying, and personally I'm gonna give like my reasons on why this ASCD is currently failing. Like, this game is probably still racking in a ton of money, but it's going downhill. Like, from every update, the game seems to have less and less players, and that's not what you want in like a game. So yeah, I'll go through probably my 6 reasons on like why this game is failing, personally, in my opinion at least. And this is a disclaimer, this is just all my personal opinion, so if you guys agree with me, let me know. If you guys disagree, just comment down below and stuff. So yeah. Alright, so the first thing I want to talk about is pretty much traits. So pretty much trait makes the game very pay to win. Now the reason why I said that is because a lot of like the new content, especially the trials, you need like really good trait, maybe Genesis, Corrupt, Bloodlust, or even All-Stars to actually like sort of beat it. And yeah, in the near future, pretty much with every update, the content's gonna get more difficult. So pretty much you need to have like All-Stars on like probably like a ton of units for you to actually win in a game and clear the stages, get the new units and stuff, which is pretty much just pay to win stuff. Now the things they can do to actually fix this issue, in my personal opinion, was to add pity into this game. Anime Vanguard already has pity in the game. It's horrible pity, but it's still pity. This game needs to have pity. Currently there is no pity. I don't understand why they did not like release pity on release of the game, because currently you're just burning like trait burners and stuff like constantly, and there's no pity to like any trait, which I find is kind of stupid. But yeah, I believe that they need to add pity into the game, and also trait burners should be much easier to get. I understand that they added like this new sort of like AFK event stuff where you can pretty much get traits from being AFK. That's pretty nice, and there's some events as well, leveling up, you get traits. That's all pretty good. But like at the end of the day, the chances of getting a good trait in this game is still bad. So pity will help pretty much solve this issue, in my personal opinion. But the number 2 thing is pretty much same updates. I understand that they add like new content like trials, that new summer event, but the update is pretty repetitive, and they don't even add like much like hype characters. I think none of the characters that they added was really too hype. They need to add like sort of like main characters from like animes that have like OP form and stuff, which I find is like, it makes the game have more players essentially, because if they drop updates with characters we don't care about, and at the end of the day if they're mid, like no one really wants to grind for these characters. And in the past like 2 or 3 updates for this game, like the characters that they drop, half of the people don't care about it. I mean, unbounds are cool and stuff, but the character itself, the selection of the characters, half of the people don't really care about it. So that's probably a big issue. Alright, so the number 3 thing I want to talk about is pretty much this game sort of forces you to play with randoms. So pretty much what I mean by that is in the past few updates, so for Trial 3, in the new like the past update, which is pretty much a summer event, there's 2 to 3 paths where enemies pretty much go through, and it sort of forces you to play with randoms, and sometimes it's not really, I guess, fun to play with randoms, mostly because some people might not have like good characters, and it just honestly just held you down from pretty much completing the event. So the number 4 thing is pretty much trials. And I personally hate trials. Now, I know some people, they might like trials, but majority of the player base, from what I heard, hate trials because the percentage to get the unit is horrible, and mostly no one plays with like 10% and like no traits and stuff, because that's even more difficult. So making the units 1% to obtain is really annoying, and plus like it takes honestly countless hours to grind trials to like let's say you do all the trials, like you do the same trials like 100 times or something, or like whatever, and you don't get the units. You pretty much need to use like the coins to get the unit, and you need 250 is a lot of coins, and it takes like really long time to grind, honestly. And in my personal opinion, I feel like they should make it at least 50%. I know that 50% might be too high, or maybe 20%, but they need to make the chance higher. I mean, at the end of the day, I understand that most people don't really want to spend countless hours just to get a unit, and it's even worse when the unit is mid. And yeah, I mean, most people, they spend hours grinding on a unit, and just to see like the unit is not good, it sort of like makes them not want to grind trials anymore. So, I mean, I can definitely agree with that. So pretty much the fifth thing I want to talk about is it's hard to stay meta in this game. So pretty much you need to have good traits for units. You also need to have max skill trees, and traits are honestly hard to get in this game, like good traits. And also skill orbs are also a little bit hard to get in this game. I understand that there are pretty much the challenges to get skill orbs, but the drop, personally, in my personal opinion, isn't enough. And as pretty much as time goes on, the content, every update, the content is going to get more difficult, and to pretty much complete these difficult stages and get the new meta unit, your units that you already have need to be like pretty much meta. They need to have good traits on them, and like they have to be like fully maxed out with like the skill tree and stuff. The reason why like old ASCD was much better was because it required like no skill trees, didn't have traits. Pretty much getting the unit is like 100% and stuff, and plus like the game just relies on the unit being good, and getting the unit itself, I mean, it definitely takes a lot of time of grinding, but it's not as much as grinding the trial units. And mostly because like ASCD was a free-to-play game, mostly because it didn't require traits. You just get the unit, you evolve them from the events, and you pretty much just use them. There was nothing really pay to win about it, I guess. And lastly, MVP is really annoying. So if you guys don't know, in this game there's pretty much MVP just like Anime Vanguard. So pretty much you have to deal the most damage to get MVP. Your reward is pretty much doubled. And in my personal opinion, MVP is kind of dumb. Now the reason why I say that is because to get MVP, you at least need 3 randoms to play with you. And like, that's honestly a bit annoying in my personal opinion. I feel like MVP shouldn't really be a thing. Like, I feel like every player should get the same amount of rewards, because everyone should have a fair chance of like getting the unit and stuff. And if a player has like overpowered units, like all stars on all their units, have high DPS, max skill tree, majority of the time, they're gonna have MVP over the player who has like maybe like 1 all-star, maybe some other traits, not fully maxed out skill trees. It's honestly really annoying in my personal opinion. It makes the game really competitive. Pretty much you're gonna be going up against some people who want like MVP and stuff, and sometimes you can't even get MVP because your unit sucks, and that's not really your fault because the game's heavily relies on RNG, which it honestly kind of sucks. But I mean, at the end of the day, these tower defense games, they pretty much rely on RNG and stuff. But yeah, honestly, ASCD is just better in my personal opinion. Everyone gets the same amount of rewards. There's no MVP. There's no traits in the game. I don't understand why they brought like all of these like traits, MVP. They should honestly just stick with like ASCD stuff, because that's what the player base want. Like, no one really wants, honestly, minus probably a few people, but not much people in this game really wants like traits. Also, one other thing I forgot to mention, Ascension in this game is honestly really stupid. Like, I don't understand why you need to ascend a unit to pretty much fully like upgrade them. I feel like that's one of the dumbest things that they can add to this game. If they're gonna add Ascension, you might as well just change it to like Evolution or something. Because in the future, this game is gonna have Evolution. You're gonna have to worry about ascending the unit. You're gonna have to worry about getting good traits. You're gonna have to worry about getting a max skill tree and stuff. And it just requires a lot of work. And half of the times, the unit that you grind, they aren't really worth it, because usually they're not really that meta. And whenever you grind a unit, you pretty much want them to be meta. So if they drop like mid units and stuff, it really like incentivize people to like not grind on this game, if that makes any sense. Well, yeah, honestly, those are pretty much just my opinions and stuff. You guys can agree or disagree in the comments below. And in the next video, I'll pretty much read like what the community thinks of like the game and stuff, why it's falling, why ASCDX is like currently not doing good, and just all the negative things about like ASCDX. But anyways, with that said, I'll end out the video here, and yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed this video.